live once more. All right, so as you may have noticed if you've been going to a couple of these streams, I have an absolutely empty Cubase file up. All right, so there are a couple of reasons for this. Well, actually, there's just one. It's time to move on to another scene for the play, and my computer was struggling to play all of the different tracks I had for scene 1, so it's time to start moving into a different file for scene 2, 3, 4, etc., etc., etc. I've already done some sketching for scenes. For scene 3, scene 2 is going to take a little bit longer because scene 2, there's only one piece of music and it's kind of a transition. So I want to find out what I'm doing in scene 3 first before I come back to that. Scene 4, just kind of doing some sketching. All of this, if you're completely new, I've been hired to write a soundtrack for a play. Not a musical, a play, which is kind of which is very interesting. It's and I'm loving the process. It's a lot of fun, very difficult because there's a lot of things I'm not used to considering. But this, oddly enough, is not the first play I've written a soundtrack for, so it works well. I've got a bit of experience. I'm excited for it. And all of that to say, I got a completely fresh palette at the moment. We'll see how normally I feel very motivated. But to complicate matters further, I was talking with the playwright, the kind of guy who's written the story and has all this. He was giving me feedback on the music, and he loved 2 of the 3 cues that I shared. Ironically, one of the most popular, what seems to be the most popular, at least on these streams, the very first one with the accordion stuff, he wasn't much of a fan of. He liked it, but he said it wasn't the sound he was going for. And that's fine. That's par for the course. I need to deliver what his vision is, essentially. So it's back to the drawing board for that one. He likes the theme. He likes the other 2, but he wants something a bit bigger, a bit larger for the first one. So he and I are going to kind of have a conversation, talk about what kind of sound he's looking for, and then I'm going to have to rearrange that one. We might be going with a more orchestral kind of approach than we've been previously working with. But that being said, I've got a completely fresh palette to work with today. I've got the themes that I've created already so I can kind of work with. But if you guys have questions, I made a story on Instagram. Not too many of you follow me on Instagram yet. That's fine. If you don't, make sure to follow me. I made a post on Instagram asking what kind of questions you guys would like to see me answer. And I didn't really get any responses, unfortunately. So I have no idea what you guys want to cover today. But all to say, let's just kind of get to work, shall we? Welcome, Tamashi, Aditya, whichever name you prefer. Welcome back, and no worries. There's no requirement for people to show up to every single stream. I really just do this because I enjoy it. So yeah, awesome, and welcome, Helios, Pierre, welcome. All right, here we go, get this chats going up now. So for now, I am essentially, I'm going to pull up my sketchbook from the themes that I wrote. That should be up soon. Here we are. All right, so we can skip this one. Essentially, this is what I'm going to be looking at. I've got my themes that I sketched out. This is why I sketch out my themes ahead of time. And yeah, let's kind of see. I've got that so I can rely on it if I need to come back to get the sketches going, all that kind of fun stuff. But all that, if you're just joining, to say I am starting completely fresh on a new scene today. I'm still getting feedback on the pieces I submitted to the writer. 2 out of the 3 got okay. He loved the kind of, he loved the second 2 cues. The first one I mentioned, the one with like the accordion that I really liked and a lot of you did. Unfortunately, it's not the vibe he's going for, which is perfectly fine. That's par for the course. I need to make sure I find out what he's going for. We can get it better on the same page for that, and then I can start writing the music that he wants for it. Let's see, Ryan, I actually was wondering how a technique to write out the common flute glisses you hear a lot in action films and such. Awesome. Yeah, I can do that. So the idea behind, that's something called a run. All right, so, do you mind if I do it on piano? Let's just record something real quick. So we have an idea. Let's do one of these. Let's go to, switch this to 60 BPM. Turn on the metronome. and we'll just kind of record this theme. Ooh, 1 second. It's been a while since I've actually played this. Let's see. So it's a... Let me pull this in front of you guys so you see what I'm looking at. This is the Man in White's theme. Name is subject to change, but I have a C major 7. Then an A minor 7 over C. An E minor 7 over B, it's supposed to be. And then an F major over C. Alright, so let's just do that. Let's just record that one, shall we? So what's that? It's an A minor over 7, so I need to... There we go. Alright, here we go. So yeah, okay, yeah, so flute runs, harp runs, welcome Adol, welcome Matt. All of these are kind of the same idea. Alright, so they're essentially scales. And if we record this down, I'm trying to record this down so I have something to demonstrate with. So let's just get this taken care of first. C major 7. A minor 7 over C. E minor 7 over B. F major over C. And we'll leave it there. Alright, so we got that. Let's clean this out up a little bit. And then one of these notes I messed up. What was it? That's it. This one came too soon. Alright, so let's say this is kind of just my piano idea. Or let's say that this is an orchestral piece. A run is a strategy for accenting an idea. There are also glissandi and all kinds of stuff, and there's different ways you can use them for like textures and backdrops. But I get the idea that what you're asking for specifically is a run. And the idea here is that you want to emphasize a note. Let's say here, we want to emphasize this B. After this nice little dreamy chord intro, we have the first note of the melody, which is a B. So let's say we have an orchestral arrangement. We decide we want the flutes to kind of emphasize that B by doubling an octave higher. And we don't want to just accent it an octave higher. We want to have a little bit of a build-up. So when building a run, the idea is you start with your destination. You start with the note you want to emphasize. Then you decide where do you want the run to begin? Where do you want this whole kind of scale or glissando to begin? Let's listen to these 4 chords again. And then see if we have a natural spot where we want it to start. Alright, so I'm thinking right here. Alright, right on beat 4. I want it to be a nice short little idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see where do I want to start this run. I want to pick a starting pitch. Since the chord underneath this is an F major, I'm going to say let's just go with an F. So now the idea is I need to find a scale that connects F to B. And I need to pick a type of note subdivision that I like. We could, just very simply, we could say, so that's 4 notes, 3 technically if I want. What if I drop that an octave? What if I actually start on A, the 3rd? There we go. So what if I go with that? And essentially, I'm just saying I'm starting on A, and I'm going to run up a very quick scale, staying within the key, until I land at B. So for me, what's the 30-second notes worked really well. Let's take this. Let's lower the velocity so they're not super loud, and then we'll kind of create a little crescendo. And so there's going to be a quick little, you're running to your note. That's why it's called a run. I just made that up. I don't know if that's really what it's called. But So you could do 32nd notes. If I wanted to do that even faster, I could do 64th notes. I can bring up the velocity a little bit so it's not that subtle. And again, we're imagining this is on a flute because I don't... And I forgot, let's raise that an octave because we're trying to accent this B an octave higher. And if we really wanted to, we could also, many times, to kind of make it feel even more kind of foreign and different, you can do tuplets. So we'll do 16th note triplets. Let's see here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 notes. I have 8 on my scale. Let's delete these bottom 2, and we'll just start with C. So these are going to be less rapid fire. But the fact that they're tuplets, so there's like 3 per subdivision instead of 2, there's just a feel of 3. It's going to sound a little bit more kind of extra, a little bit more like ear candy. So if we come back here a little bit, we can listen to the chords, we can hear that run in. That's the idea. You can go much faster, you can go slower, but remember, the point of a run is that you're building up an emphasis to a primary note. So, kind of 3 steps to creating a run. Step 1, pick the note you want to emphasize. Step 2, pick the spot that you want to start. That could be 1 beat, that could be a full measure, it could be whatever you want to do. Pick the spot and the starting pitch you want. And step 3 is just bridge those 2 spots using however many notes you need, however many pitches you need. It can be chromatic, it can be staying to the key. If we really wanted to, let's say we could double this up, go even faster, and we can just kind of make it more chromatic. This is going to get more energy, more movement. We're not missing any beats. Let's do this over here. Let's bring that up. So this one is a little short. So we're just going, what we're going to do is we're going to double the length of our first note. So this is much more of a glissando because there's no skipped notes. So does that answer your question? That's kind of the runs. I haven't talked about like specific glissandi or using it as a background texture, because of course you can use the background texture where you're just drawing a shape basically. For the harp, the important thing to remember is the harp is only ever capable of 7 individual pitches at any given time. It's because the harp has no black keys. All right, imagine it's all the white keys, just A through G, no sharps, no flats. Then anytime you want a sharp, there's a set of foot pedals. If you want it to sharp, you press the foot pedal down. For say you want C sharps, you press the C pedal down. That tightens the string, and now every single C string on your harp is now C sharp. So that's why with a harp you can only ever have 7 individual pitches. So you can't do a full glissando like you would on a keyboard, just because the keyboard's capable of more than 7 individual pitches for a single gliss. But yeah, so that kind of answers like the run kind of question. And it doesn't have to be all one straight line. It usually is, but you can go up and down. You can have multiple points of emphasis throughout. It's just how creative you want to be with it. Let's see. Pierre, what do you think about Pacific Strings? If you checked it out, I'm not sure. I haven't heard of Pacific Strings. What? I've been living under a rock lately. What is Pacific Strings? I'm assuming it's a sound library. But what's the draw? Like, what's so interesting about it that's making people want to talk about it? Let me know. I'd be happy to pass judgment. Well, probably not. I have no idea what they are, so I shouldn't be passing judgment. But if you're up for some completely ignorant and doesn't know what he's talking about opinions, I can offer that if you'd like. Let's see here. Matt Lewis. Welcome, Matt. Tamashi. And please show the harp runs too. Yeah, so again, same basic premise, but like I said with the harp, you're limited to 7 distinct pitches. So basically, whatever scale or key you're working with, the harp has to stick to that. All right, the harp is not very good at rapid fire changes. It's not very good at chromatic passages. The best thing you can do with that is using enharmonics, which means different, same pitch, different names. So since, for example, the E and F on a keyboard are right next to each other. So on a harp, if you take all the F flat, and so if you want an E and an E flat, on a harp that would be very difficult because you can only have an E or E flat. But if you don't need F natural, just make the F natural a F flat, which is the same pitch as E. So now you've got two different strings, E flat, E. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that's confusing to anybody. If you want to learn more about the harp, it's a good question. Have I done a video about the harp? I don't know. I know I had one planned. Okay, so if you've been following, it's been a while since I've done an actual video for the channel because I've been so busy with the soundtrack I'm supposed to be writing right now. Before I had to take a break, I was working on a series of instrument profiles. I have not finished it. I had to stop suddenly. I will get back to it, and then I have videos I was going to do about each individual section. So, unfortunately, I don't know if I have done a video on the harp, but hopefully that's not too confusing. I could probably do a dedicated video at some point. Let's see here. Tamashi, are you a little sad about the accordion theme being rejected? If I'm being honest, yes, of course. I mean, I spent yes and no. It's par for the course, all right? So when you spend a lot of time on a soundtrack, you have to remember this is not the composer coming into a project saying, I'm the genius. I know what goes with your film or your idea or your story. No, it's really a partnership, all right? So the playwright, beautifully creative artist, love working with him, has a vision for this play. He has a vision for the characters, for the worlds. And we communicate, we talk about our vision for these characters. I have my interpretation of them, he has his interpretation of them, and we're trying to find the best way to portray them. So when I first kind of read the scene I was scoring, to me, I thought, all right, this character, I kind of want a little bit of like a fun but sinister undertones. So, and to me, I just kept this idea of almost like a trickster archetype character, because very much is a trickster character archetype. And so I wrote what I thought portrayed the character well. And it's not that he didn't enjoy the music. He really liked it. He thought it was catchy. He thought it was fun. But at the end of the day, it did not portray the same character that he had written. It did not portray the character that he envisioned. And so I just start from the I get to start over. He okayed the theme. He loves the theme. It was just the arrangement. So while I'm bummed because it's essentially more work for me, I'm still excited about moving forward with the theme because now I got a better idea of what he wants for this character. And so now I hopefully can deliver. No, there's no hopefully. I will deliver a better theme. And it's not like it's wasted. I still enjoy the piece. I'll still hold on to it. I might share it at some point and polish it because I enjoy it. But that's all part of the process. So, what am I trying to do? Kind of take away from all this. Like, if you want to be a media composer of any sort, you have to be okay with rejection. All right? You have to be okay with putting hours into a piece of music, thinking it's the best thing, this is perfect for the character, showing it to the director or the writer, whoever you're working with, and having them go, it's good, but it's not what we want. Or if you've got a mean person. I've never worked with a mean person, thankfully. But I've never had someone say, this is terrible, this is awful, why did you show this to me? Fortunately, hopefully, I never have someone like that. But it's just kind of part of the course. I have to go in expecting that any piece I write can be rejected. And if it is, the next step is to figure out why and build a plan to how to make sure that the next one is going to learn from those mistakes. Ryan, oof, that's beautiful. Makes more sense to me now. Thank you so much for the explanation, Orchestration. My pleasure. Glad it helps. Your trouble was finding the scale and the speed to put the flute at. Was kind of just winging it. Very true. It takes a little time, all right? Sometimes I imagine it'll come quicker the more you practice. But it just takes kind of playing around with it. Remember, whatever you do, try not to contradict the underlying harmony. As long as your starting note is either a melody tone, meaning it's the same note played at the same time as the melody, just maybe an octave higher, So like if we were trying to reach this G with our run instead, and we started back here with an E, we'd want to make sure that our run started either with an E or one of the underlying chordal tones, something in the harmony. After that, you can contradict it if you'd like in terms of going chromatically. You can stick to just the chordal tones, whatever's in. You can go and make it arpeggio. You can do more of like the key, whatever you're working with. Just the key to making it work is make sure the first note and the last note fit with your music. Then you just connect the two. You can try different speeds. You can try different scale configurations. All kinds of cool stuff. Awesome. So I'm glad you got a better understanding now. Pierre, Pacific Strings is a symphonic strings library with a very romantic sound, but it has no second violins in it. Kind of strange. Interesting. So, like, I mean, I'm all for, like specialized libraries. But, like, by no second violins, do you mean it just has a violin patch, viola patch, cello patch, and bass patch? Or are you talking more like high strings, low strings? Personally, I don't care much for ensemble patches. I have several. I have... so if you've been regular, I do not have Albion 1 anymore. I used to, but my computer is very old and it has been struggling lately, and it was rapidly running out of space. I think I had like 20 gigs left on my hard drive. I deleted everything I possibly could so far. And unfortunately, I had to get rid of Albion 1 to kind of salvage some more space. But Albion 1 is an ensemble patch. The next libraries on my chopping block, unfortunately. I don't want them to be on my chopping block, but I don't use them very frequently other than the choir patches, are the Metropolis Arc. So if you go into Orchestra, you'll see high strings, low strings. That's what's called an ensemble patch, right? That's not the individual instruments. They have some individual instruments, but the strings are an ensemble. Same with Orchestra, Metropolis 2, high strings, mid strings, low strings. And that's very different from, say, my preferred approach, which has the specific instruments labeled out and the number of instruments involved and all that really cool stuff. So if it is more of an ensemble patch, that's not too normal, out of the usual, but if it's something more like just violins, just violas, just cello, just basses, that's weird, but not unheard of, because I guess you could just double on the tracks for the violins and just say it's the same patch, but this one's going to be violin 1, so this one's going to be violin 2. Fix it with your kind of, with whatever panning you need to make them sound like separate sections and all that stuff. I'd have to listen to their sound. But yeah, if I had more space on my computer and I had more money in my budget, I'd probably be buying all kinds of sound libraries. But for now, in this moment of my life, I am very blessed, very fortunate to have some very nice powerhouses of libraries. These professional grade Spitfire libraries, these three, plus the solo strings, percussion, and my pianos, all that cool stuff. This makes up the vast majority of what I'm able to work with. So I make it work. It's wonderful. I'm very fortunate. Let's see here. Yeah, it's just violins, violas, cello, and basses. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's not unheard of, though. If I really wanted to, like going back to my library, they have separate sections. Violin ones, there's 16 of them. Or I can do 8, or I can do divisi and split the 8 into 4. Violin 2 has a lesser number, which is usually the case. There's usually fewer violin 2 than violin 1s. Not too many. Like, there's not a very massive difference, but there's usually a difference. But if I really wanted to, I could just double up on the tracks. And I could just pan them differently. Say, all right, this is violin 1s. I'm going to double it. I'm just going to move them over slightly and have these be violin number 2. It's perfectly fine. It saves money for the library makers. They don't have to record 2 different violin sections with 2 different placements. So yeah, there's kind of, we got all that. Awesome. So, yeah, any other questions? I'm supposed to be working right now, but the hardest part is just kind of starting from scratch in front of you guys, which I guess I'm not. I've got my sketches specifically, but I gotta go through like my notes on the play, look at the scene. So I'm going to be working on Act 1, Scene 4. It looks like there are 3 pieces I need to, well, 2. There are 2 pieces I need to write. One that I need to arrange. It's a pre-existing song and I need to make an arrangement of it for the play. But this one's gonna be a really difficult one because this is a really big piece of music. This is the climax of the scene mostly. Definitely the climax of the act. This is the scene 4 is the last scene in Act 1. I need to do a lot of planning. It's got to be a very large piece of music. It's got to be a long piece of music, and I just don't want to write it right now. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. All right. I love writing music. Music is my life, but sometimes I just don't want to write the pieces I'm supposed to be writing. That's just the way things are, isn't it? Entropy Addicts. So you'll be orchestrating this sketch today. I could start orchestrating. You know what? Let's just do that. Shall we? Let's see here. Project Act. Let's go to Act 1, Scene 3. It doesn't exist. Oh, that's why. I had to move it. Okay, that scared me for a bit. Let me bring this over here. Act 1 Q. Not that one. This right here is why it is very important to properly name and organize your files. So I moved this one to a different space. I knew where it was. I was able to find it. I was not panicking because it wasn't where I wanted it to be. So this is a piece I sketched out. I'm not done with it. I still need to create an ending for it. But you guys will recognize this. It's literally just the theme that we've been working with, like kind of the accordion theme. Copied and pasted a couple times, adjusted slightly here and there to kind of fit the new mood. And I've got to now start arranging this or finding an ending. Let me see here. Tamashi, I just put a question above. Is it not visible? No, yeah, I'm not seeing it. I saw the one where you asked about if I'm sad about the accordion theme being rejected. And I did answer that one. I said, yeah, I'm a bit bummed, but it's part of the work. I really enjoyed the theme, but I really enjoyed the way it sounded. Of course I did, because I wrote it. I wouldn't write it if I didn't like the way it sounded. But it didn't serve the story the way the writer envisioned. And I could write the best piece of music of my career, but if it doesn't fit the story, I need to get rid of it. I need to move on. I won't get rid of it. It's not like it's never going to see the light of day again. I might just have fun making an arrangement and share that later. But for now, I just need to move on and deliver a piece that works. Otherwise I don't get paid, right? So let's listen to this one real quick. See where we're at, shall we? So this one moves very slowly. Got the metronome. I'll turn the metronome off. Yeah, while we listen to this, shoot some questions in the comments. I really don't want to work today. I don't want to be productive. So share any questions or any ideas you want me to try and address. I'd be happy to take a look at them. While we do this, I am going to look at the script. This is a very bare bones sketch. It's literally bass line, chords, and melody. The whole point of arranging is I need to start making this a bit more musical. So the timing works so far for just the way I'm reading it. Which the timing, this isn't the final timing. I have to get actual recordings of the actors reading their lines and kind of figure that all out. If you were here last stream, I talked about how I deliberately have a pulse in every piece in this play so that the actors can have an easier time following the beat and using that for cues and such of how long to pause, how long to wait, all that kind of fun stuff. I don't know. I'm not an actor. I was in high school. I loved the theater. I love theater classes. Let's see here. That was a long time ago, though. Alright, so this is the part where I started struggling with the sketch, figuring out where to go with it. Alright, game, where is this? Game Maker software, here we are. Alright, yeah, so at this point it's just kind of repeating, and I need to do a bit more. I need at this point I need to fall in the background because there's a lot of really important dialogue coming right here, and so I need to make sure this stays in the background. So it needs to be repetitive. But the idea is between these, I need to also be building the tension and making it a little bit more dangerous sounding. Let's see here. Jack. Hardest part of this profession is putting your soul into something, having the client talk about it like it's cold coffee. Yes! And welcome, Jack. Welcome back to another stream, my friend. That is a very difficult part of the process. I'm sorry, my alarm has been going off for 2 minutes, and I didn't hear that. If you've been listening to it and it's been driving you crazy, I apologize. It's off now. We can focus on the music. But, yeah, so Jack's talking about, like, yeah, when you're working on a piece, and you're very proud of it, you're very excited for it, and the client is not. That's always a hard one, especially because that was one of my favorites. That was one of my favorite pieces I wrote. Let's see here, but let's move on, shall we? All right, so where are we? We got the transition. So I've got a transition. This is fine. These 4 measures. What I need to work on is, let's see here. So it's 4. This one looks like it's 12 measures long. Let's see if we can just build up tension between the two. So there is a little bit more tension. So we've got, that's right, that's what I was working with. So originally, our chord progression was going D minor, then it was going G minor, then it was going G, is that diminished? Yep, G diminished, and then D minor. So now what we're going is we're kind of adding a bit more movement with some more diminished chords. Let's see where we go. Then D diminished. No, it's a B flat major. So yeah, the chords kind of work here. So let's see here. Let's listen to this part again. Actually, let's start over here. What am I doing here? All right, this is a very low energy stream today because I'm just kind of working with these arrangements here. What I could do is I probably should, since this is a sketching process, I should probably next what I would like to do, but it wouldn't make a terribly interesting stream, I'm afraid, is notate this. To take all of this, write it out on and some sheet music so that I can look at it a bit more objectively, so I can understand the chords a bit better. Because what I don't like about Cubase is there's no way to change the note names. All right, it's never B flat. It's always A sharp. Sometimes I want it to be an A sharp. For example, in this chord, this is technically an A, a D augmented. It's a D. Yeah, D augmented. It's a D major, and then I raised the fifth to make it a sharp. It's the D augmented. But sometimes I don't want it to be an A sharp. I want it to be a B flat. Actually, no, it's not a D augmented. That's a B. It's a B flat. See, that's exactly why I don't like Cubase doing this. I get all turned around. This is a B flat major, which is a very different sound from a D augmented. Oh, I do not want to work today. I just do not. Let's see here. What shall we do? Let's break it down into a couple of different sections. All right, so exploring the new room. This is the intro. Let's just kind of listen to this section first. All right. Anyone got any questions? I really want to procrastinate today. I don't want to keep working on this. There's a practical reason I'm telling myself as well, because I need to have more conversations with the writer, figure out more about his vision for what he wants, since my original design for that first piece was not what he wanted. I need to get more on the same page with him about what he's looking for. And before I can do that, before I can start writing, I need to get on kind of that information. Gotta treat it like the gym. The days you don't want to do are the days you gotta. Yeah. That's true. Thank you, Jack. Jack is one of my students, showing me up, telling me, I get it. I gotta do it. All right, so let's just get to work, shall we? All right, let's focus on these first two sections. Let's see here. So first two sections, let's cut this up. We've got the intro. We just listened to the intro. Let's listen to the first statement of the melody. And then up to measure 28. This is where we'll start arranging it. And we'll arrange it for piano for now. The one thing I know for sure he's looking at is the piano. He likes the piano. He likes the strings. He wasn't so much a fan of the accordion. But it didn't give the vibe he was looking for. Some of the synths he was okay with, some not. But I know the piano's good. And given the scene for this, given the scene this music is written for, it would be appropriate for a solo piano to perform this entire cue. So I could approach it like that. Just do one large piano arrangement, in which case I think I am going to do that up to measure 24. All right. Let's duplicate this. We'll cut this one. We'll name this sketch, because that's what it is. It's just a sketch. And then this one will be piano. Shall we? All right. Omniscient, have you tried making music with OpenAI's textural AI ChatGPT? I tried. It's absolutely catastrophic. I have not. AI is all the rage these days. I've got a cousin who was sending me a whole bunch of AI art. He put my name, like my YouTube name, into a AI art generator, and it came up with all these little troll characters and D&D people with giant glasses writing. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was fun. I have conflicted feelings about AI art, but I haven't tried anything regarding music or anything like that. Helios, one question just to ask. What are your two favorite colors? I help you with research. All right, so colors in terms of instrumental colors, or colors as in colors? Either way, it's going to depend on the day. I'd say right now I'm feeling a little bit loyal to my alma mater. I'm going to say maize and blue. All right, those are going to be my two favorite colors. Let's see here. Props to you if you know what I'm talking about. Maize and blue would be my favorite colors, color-wise. Instrumentation-wise, I would say I always love the sound of marimba. All right, I used to watch the marimba performances in Mexico with my. They were broadcasted from Mexico with my abuelita when I took care of her. And so she always loved those. We always had a lot of fun. So I've got lots of fond memories of the marimba sound. So I love the sound of the marimba. I love to sneak it into a lot of my pieces. And then other than that, I'm just gonna say violin. Violin is a very beautiful instrument. It's not always my favorite. Sometimes I prefer the sound of a nice strong bass, but it depends. It's kind of like on a day-to-day basis. All right, so now let's work about this arrangement. Oh, more questions. Tasha, just today I saw the previous stream and got a glimpse of it and died of jealousy. Oh, which one are you talking about? What did I do to make you so jealous in the last one? Was it like the arrangement with the questions? I don't know. I'd be interested. So what are you talking about, Tamashi? Jack, omniscient, omnipresent. That sounds like insanity. Yep. It does. Yes. So you're talking about like the AIs. I don't know what to feel about that. I don't think it's gonna take over. But yeah, I can imagine there's a bunch of freaky stuff. I imagine trying to write music with I say write music with a computer, but that's what I'm doing right now. Tamashi, you have an amazing head of hair. What do I specifically have here? I don't do any oils or anything like that. I do, I just haven't cut it in like 2 years. So yes, I do have like it goes past my shoulders. It's a very long head of hair. And I don't know what to do with that. It's only long because I haven't brought myself to cut it. I haven't bothered with it yet. But yeah, thank you, Tamashi. Omniscient, I asked many things. Funniest is what it would do, and then just write wrong. Okay, I asked many things. Funniest that it wrote is that it was what it would do, and then just write wrong stuff. At the end, I asked if to write why it was so bad at the music, and it said, all right. So I imagine you're going to be following that up with, so yeah, you told it to write a bunch of bad music and then asked it to say why it was wrong. I have heard about the stuff's a little chaotic with like the music theory explanation bots and whatnot. Alright, so yeah, I can't do creative stuff. That's understandable. That's the weakness of AI at the moment. Alright, I'm going to let the comments catch up, get some more comments going, and then for now, let's focus on the music. Alright, so I have an opening chord progression. Alright, so the intro, let's drop that a bit. I like that. I just like the simplicity of that. A single chord that works really well for opening the piece and just transitioning music back to the picture. Nice little tension. Actually, let's just listen to this one more time. See if there's anything I do want to change. Alright, so we got the A minor. We've got D minor. This is where things are going to be changing. Because this is impossible to play on the piano, so I need to change this. I cannot play an octave on A down here while pulsing an octave higher while playing an ostinato an octave higher. So what I could do is, I only have 2 hands, I don't have 3. What do I do? Let's see. I could just do the A. What if I kind of pulse back and forth? No, I don't like, that's too much of a... I mean, it'd be fun if I wanted to keep with kind of the same feel I was going for with the first variation of this theme, but that's the piece that got the X, so I'm trying not to be too playful. Because that was the author's worry. He says it's playful, it's fun and sinister. He's like, but he was worried that the playful aspect just didn't fit the scene well. He's like, he got what I was going for, but it didn't fit the vibe he was trying to go for. He was going for something a little bit more grandiose. So what if I did more of a... That's a 3/4 top feel, like a feel. So I don't know. I kind of like that idea, but let's see. Could we do it? we try that? What if we do that? All right, so A stays down here. 1, so it was A. Then it was the C and the E. So let's drop this one. Get rid of the A. Then it was the E and the A. Raise this. Then drop that. Let's see how this works. Let's repeat this. We'll just copy and paste it. We can always adjust it better to make it sound more realistic. I don't know how that works. I don't like that. I gotta create something a little elegant, but still kind of sinister. I got the sinister, I got the dark. That's taken care of with the harmony. That's taken care of with the melody. So now the idea is elegance. How do I create a feeling of elegance? Now, for me personally, when I think elegant in music, I think lush. I think very connected, very flowing. I think movement. So what if we did something like that? What if I just kind of did an arpeggio? Because an arpeggio is an excellent way to have movement. Let's give me a 1 measure count in. That might have just been me playing off the beat. Let's give it one more try. 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 1, 2 and. All right, so it worked better that time, but it's still not kind of what I'm looking for. So this is where basically I'm struggling a little bit. I know. What if I do just leave the pulse? Because I like the pulse. What if I save the movement for later? Sorry, I know there's a lot of comments coming up. I will address them in just a moment. Just right now I'm frustrated because I'm trying to figure out what direction to take this in. Let's see, that was an octave higher, isn't it? So what if I move this down? All right, what if I go... the same kind of factor. What am I going to do here? What am I going to do? I don't know. A lot of this, that's pretty much what the process is. I've got my sketch. I know I like the deep rumbling bass. I imagine the problem is this is quite a bit of movement. So starting here, I like having just kind of the sustained dark chords. I don't want too much movement here. I've been focusing on this as a piano solo. I like the texture. I like the nice rumbling bass. Like the nice heavy low end with the pulsing chords. So what if, one way I could do this is it's impossible to play this bass line with these chords and this ostinato because I just don't have 3 hands. And there are too many articulation points across too many octaves. So what I can do is I can give this bass line to an acoustic bass. It's a very simple bass line. But if I were to do that, I could keep the kind of pulsing chords while still having the deep and low end. Let's try that, shall we? Let's add a bass to the mix. And while we're doing that, I'll try to get caught up on questions. Let's see here. So, Tamashi trying, are grace notes and appoggiaturas the same thing? No, but they're very similar. So, a grace note is just any note anywhere played very quickly. All right, something where it's not really counted in the play. So if I were to playing, can't play because my computer's thinking. That's kind of a technical question because some people would say yes, appoggiaturas are a type of grace note. Some people would say no, they're not. It depends on how you're working with them. So an appoggiatura can be a grace note, but it doesn't have to be. For example, an appoggiatura can just be any non-chordal tone on a downbeat. The common example being the 9th of a 7th chord played on the downbeat. So if we got an A minor, that's the bass. Well, if we have an A minor and our melody starts with a B. Alright, that B. That's technically an appoggiatura. It's a non-chordal tone. It's the 9th. It doesn't belong to the A minor triad. But it's being played on a strong beat. But then it resolves to the to a chordal tone, the A. So I guess the main difference, and I could be wrong, the main difference between a grace note and appoggiatura is an appoggiatura is usually a non-chordal tone. A grace note does not have to be. A grace note could be just kind of that C and E right before A. Very quick. They're not really counted in the beat because they're so quick. But C and E both belong to the chord. An appoggiatura, by definition, is not from the underlying chord, if that makes sense. So yeah, I guess that's an interesting question. I have a strong understanding of music theory, but I've never been really one for like getting into the nuances of what is the exact difference between this term and that term. I take a very composer-focused approach to music theory, which is, does this sound the way I want it? How do I do the cool things kind of thing? Some people just are even bigger music theory nerds than I do, and they'd probably be able to tell you the exact difference between a grace note and an appoggiatura. I tried Googling it. I'm sure someone has a definition or like a textbook difference. Oh, Toshi, you're looking like a samurai here. Yes, thank you. Yeah, go back to the long hair. It is long. I was like, I need to get it cut eventually. I like the idea of donating my hair. So we'll see. Probably won't be for a while because, like I said, I've just kind of grown. If you watch my earlier videos, I have much shorter hair. That's the way I wore my hair like all my life. It's just much shorter. I don't know what it was. Like 2 years ago, I decided, I don't want to get it cut. I'm just gonna ignore it, and it's just kind of grown out since. Jack, there's always fear when technology starts worming its way into places where it isn't normally present. We think things will get replaced because the new thing makes it easier or faster. Here we're back on the conversation of AI. I like the logo image of your YouTube channel. How is it called? I want to download a Google image. Thank you. Yes, so the Google image I have of my logo, I made that myself. I made the original design. Then a very supportive fan, took my hand-drawn image and then made it an actual image and sent that to me. So that was really cool. I uploaded it. I've loved it since. If you like my logo, you can purchase stickers of my logo on the merch. There should be merch below this video. If not, there's a link in the description that should take you to my merch. But you can buy like a 5-pack of stickers for like $2. And it's just my logo. You can stick in place. I got stickers on my keyboard. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do with it. There's all kinds of cool stuff at my merch shop. That's a way you can support the channel. Yeah, I like my logo too. Thank you, Jack. But we still have books despite having movies, and we still have movies despite having TV, and we still have TV despite having streaming. We will be okay. Very, very true, my friend. That being said, the counter argument, because I don't want to completely undercut all artists out there, is just because we still have things doesn't mean that the same positions are still there. Calligraphers at one point were a vital part of the picture for writing books. You couldn't have a book without a team of calligraphers, people writing out each word. But since the dawn of the printing press, they're out of the picture. There might be a couple here and there who do it for a hobby or as like a special art pieces, but the job of a calligrapher no longer exists. It's no longer a sustainable way to pay for yourself, like a living wage kind of thing. So I do see why there is fear. I'm not saying AI is a bad thing. That's why I said I have conflicting views about it. I think it's really cool. I do think that there should be laws in place to make sure that artists aren't being ripped off. But yeah, I'm not worried. There's no way that a computer is going to be able to take away the creative aspect of making art. I'm just kind of seeing different things here. But I agree, we're all going to be okay. Tamashi, about AI art, the companies who developed it violated copyright. Yep, so that's what I was talking about. Yep, there we go. Yep, so it looks like, oh yeah, there's a lot of people. So it's a good conversation. Jacob Dinner is missing something, I'm sure, but is there a particular reason you're keeping this human playable? For the piano, yes. The music will not be played live for the soundtrack. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't like to get the parts recorded. And for the most part, I want it to sound realistic. And it's just my own personal approach. I have such... my background is in orchestration. That's what I love to study is orchestration. So a big part of orchestration is just making sure everything is humanly playable. That's just my default. By default, I try to make sure everything's humanly playable. I love the sound. I could just go with the sound if I wanted to. But if I do want to get it recorded and I want it to be one take, save some money, I've got to find a way to make this arrangement work. So that does bring us back. And Jack, no worries. I enjoy the conversation about AI. It's fun. Like Tamashi's bringing up, there's a lot of points here and there. I don't think rebelling against it is the answer. And the main reason for that is because I love studying musical history. And there's a book called the Lexicon. I forgot the full name, but it's kind of known colloquially as the Lexicon, which is a collection of horrific reviews of incredible composers. Beethoven gets ripped a new one. Stravinsky gets ripped a new one. Debussy, it's open season on composers like Debussy because everyone thought they are going to ruin music. There's a one point in time in history where owning a score of Debussy's music in many places was a crime, punishable of expulsion from your music school because they were so frightened of the directions he was going in. So from history, I understand that you don't want to reactively reject things. That being said, as an artist, I'm very weary of people ripping off other artists' creations. And so yeah, then I'm not contributing anything new to this conversation. This is quite popular to be talking about online at the moment. And I just like writing music, so I just kind of stick in my corner. No one's ever asked me opinion about it, yeah. So, oh yeah, so you guys are just kind of having the conversation about that. But it is a fascinating conversation to have. Let's see here. So let's start out. Let's focus on. So yeah, this is all the intro. Let's add in the bass part, shall we? Let's just say the A is fine where it's at. This is a low A. So this is low C. A is below that. So technically, the bass can play all the way down here. So this is no problem for the bass. Let's remove this from the piano. Actually, let's just do it an octave higher. See how this sounds first. We'll copy in that. Put it in the bass. Alright, so it's going to sound very computery, but let's just see what it sounds like. I like the low A better. So let's bring this in here from the very beginning. Let's lower this so it fits. Let's delete this. And we'll kind of add a little bit of shape. Nothing crazy just yet, because I don't know how I want to work with this. We'll just say, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. I won't worry about making sure the note, breaking the note up a bit. Just leave it for now. Let's see how this works. These up a bit. See, this is the part of composing that is always kind of frustrating. Is this idea that there's so many different decisions you can make, so many different options you can go in, and yet you feel like none of them are going to work. And this is always like the I want to quit part of composing. And if you ever listen to like a podcast with someone like Hans Zimmer or Pinar Toprak or even Alan Silvestri, all these big name famous composers, they all kind of have this idea of no matter what project they work on, they always have the I quit moment where they feel like they're struggling, they're not going to have a good idea, they're not going to be able to come up with anything, and they should just quit so that the writers can hire a real composer. So this is one of the valuable parts about sharing this live with all of you, is to show that this happens to pretty much everybody. Right now I am very much in the I just want to quit kind of phase. But I remind myself that this is not the first time I have felt this. Like, I felt the I want to quit stage when I was writing the melodies. When I was first coming up with the chord progressions, when I was reading the story, all these different ideas where I felt like no ideas were going to come through. I just didn't have any ideas. But I know that I do have melodies, all right? I know that I've made several arrangements, even when I felt like quitting when I had this synths that I had to design. All these difficult hurdles, they're hurdles, and you can get past them. You can jump over them, you can go around them, you can kick them over and start something else. There's all kinds of things that you can do to just kind of move on. You just gotta be creative with your approach. Let's see here, a couple of things. All right, so talking about AI. Whoa, sorry, I accidentally scrolled in on my screen and the words are super large. Let me zoom back out. Let's see here. There we go. Omniscient, omnipresent, pretending to be ChatGPT. There we go. I gotta check out ChatGPT. I don't know what that is, but JCZim, thank you. I think it is intentional to keep the convo going. Yes, I wanted to make it a sneaky remark, but I wrote snarky instead. No worries, no worries. I got it. I see you in quotes. It's in quotes. No worries. Let's see here. But what am I gonna do? I don't know. This is one of the, like I said, I'm in one of those I want to just kind of give up type stages. I'm like, and of course I'm not going to give up. I've been hired to do this. I love to do this. I'll make it through. I'll make it work somehow. Let's see here. So if I take the bass line out of the picture for the piano, which I'm going to have to make this sound a bit better. I'm going to have a little bit of movement. Anyone have any questions about music theory or anything? Because my brain is completely broken right now in terms of things I want to work with on this theme. And especially, I also have, like I said, a little low motivation at the moment because I still don't know what kind of sound the writer is looking for. I think, because we're communicating in email at the moment because we haven't been able to have a chance to talk face to face. And we're working on that. We're trying to find a spot to like FaceTime or something. But I'm kind of working based off of email descriptions. And so I still have no sure idea of what the right direction for the arrangement is. Let's see here. And I'm sleepy. I'm tired. I don't want to be writing music. All kinds of stuff. Today is a wonderful day, isn't it? Let's see here. But the fun part is I know the moment I get some momentum, I'm going to be super excited and I won't be able to stop for hours. That's always what happens. I just got to fight through. I got to keep writing. Alright, so the bass is a little too quiet. Let's add some reverb to this just to make it sound a little bit richer. When in doubt, just add reverb, right? Where is it? No, let's just do front stage. Let's see here. Let's do... I'll bring this over so you guys can see it. Alright, so I'm going to do bass and piano. We'll send them both to my reverb. By default, I'm going to use -8. That's what I've been doing for the other projects. Although this is a smaller room that they're supposed to be in, so I might reduce the reverb. We'll see. Let's see here. I see there's a lot of questions. Or comments, at least. I'll be answering those momentarily. Let's add a bit more movement to the bass, shall we? These two measures sound, or I guess they're 4 measures. So I'm just going to do, the E is the 5th for A minor, this is technically, A minor. And D is the 1st for D minor. So I'm sticking to the 1st and 5th in the bass line. Let's bring this volume up just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on some more mics. And for this project, I am using the close mic. If you've read my blog post about mic positions, you understand why I don't like using the close mic. Just because it doesn't sound realistic. It's too close to the bass. You don't listen to a symphony hall and have your ear pressed right up to the bass, hearing every little noise the instrument makes. But for the soundtrack I'm working on, it works. It kind of fits the sound palette I'm going for. What if I go to D? And then go up to A. Kind of just getting a little bit more movement in my bass line. All right, hold up. Let's see here. A bunch of questions. Let's see here. More things about AI. Can you, Anthony D. Carrier, can you play instruments or only program MIDIs? Yes, I can play instruments. So I did My first instrument I ever learned was piano. I had like 1 year of lessons as a kid. So obviously I'm not a very strong piano player, but I took some lessons in college, got my chops up enough to write. But again, I would not call myself a piano player. I am a trumpet player. I've played trumpet since 5th grade, so that's like 2005. So yeah, coming up on 2 decades. I'm not in practice recently because I don't play as frequently as I'd like to. But trumpet is the instrument I have the most natural talent for. If you've been on the channel for a while, there was a period in my life where I tried to run away from music. In other words, like that's what I call it. But basically, I decided it's the family curse. Everyone loves music. You turn 18, you have to abandon it so you can do a real job. My father was a great example for kind of avoiding that family tradition by keeping music on as like as a second job, and now I'm the crazy person trying to do it full time. But all that to say, I did go through a period of time where I tried to abandon the trumpet. I went 4 years without touching the instrument. I was going crazy. I really wanted music back in my life, so I auditioned for my university orchestra band, not the music major orchestra, but I orchestrated for just kind of the campus band kind of thing, and I got second chair, which made some people very pissed off when they found out I hadn't touched it in 4 years. But all I have to just say, trumpet is the instrument I feel the most connection with. It's the one that comes most naturally to me. And unfortunately, I just don't play that very often anymore. I need to. It's just the walls here are very thin, and my roommates aren't very happy hearing a trumpet. So I gotta find a good time that works for it. I also play guitar. I got into Berkeley for vocal performance, and when I auditioned, I was practiced enough that I could sight read singing. So yeah, I know a couple of instruments. I would not call myself a performer because I don't perform. I don't keep practice on music. Performances, I'm more of a composer. But yeah. So yes, that's again. I've mentioned it before, but I've got such severe ADHD that if you ask me one question, I'm probably going to answer like 7. So that was a bit more information than you asked. But yeah, there we go. All right. Tamashi, no worries. You're passionate. Or I can't say no worries. You're not talking to me, but yeah. I don't mind the conversation about AI. People just get very passionate about it. Omniscient, omnipresent. Wow, 5 retracted messages. What did you say? Well, probably shouldn't say what you said because you had to retract it. No problem at all. Okay, awesome. So JC Zim is an understanding person. Tamashi, Steven, can you show how trumpeters blow? Like, do they blow air while whistling, or do they make a P sound? Neither. So trumpet players don't really blow. Technically we do, but we vibrate our lips. So, like, and a slowed down version would be like, basically that kind of sound. But your lips have to press together much tighter. It has to be much faster. And so, all right, it's a very different kind of effect, but you're vibrating your lips very, very fast by blowing through them while keeping them pinched together. And the higher you want to go in your pitch, the more pressure there needs to be. The tighter your lips to be. That's why when trumpet players are first learning how to hit very high notes, they have to build the muscle in their embouchure to not just physically play it, but they also have to build the tolerance. I remember in high school having horrific headaches because of the amount of pressure that would build up while first trying to learn how to hit those high notes. Fortunately, they never lasted long. But yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. I've never been asked that before. Jason, but on the point of transparency, just want to add that there are some ways to explore how the model is thinking. It ends up being very cool as a reflection of the idea. Awesome. So you guys are having a good conversation. KOS, welcome. JC Zim, have a good stream. Sounding great. Thank you very much. I take it you're probably taking off. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by, JC Zim. Tomasha, can you tell me some uses of tritone modulation other than resolution? So the idea of tritone modulation, there's a bunch of different, I'm assuming you're talking about modulating using the tritone and not just modulating from keys with tonal centers a tritone apart. But the idea of tritone modulation is, I've talked about it before, the idea of resolution. So you have, keyboard is set up space, is you have the 5/7 chord going into the 1 chord. The reason why that sounds so satisfying is because of your tritone resolving to the first and third of your target chord. And so they're both moving in. Anytime you're talking about tritone modulation, it's all about resolving it. That's the whole point of tritone resolution or modulation. It's just a matter of how you resolve it. So I talked about, let's say, B to F. All right, so you have B to F. Why is it not working? Ah, it's because this one's muted. You have B to F. All right, and the stereotypical way to resolve it is to move in. The simplest way to do this is with your chords. So G, B, D. So G7 to C major. All right, because this tritone resolves by moving in. This is the default way. This is the way that's present in every major scale, really. But there are other ways you can resolve it. Because again, we're just talking about getting rid of the tritone. Finding a way to move from the tritone to a more satisfying point of... So I'll put these... So you're trying to go from high tension, high dissonance, to low dissonance, to consonance, is the term for that. So you can move these in and resolve it that way. However, you can also move just one. So instead of going, you go, which technically resolves, because it's no longer a tritone, it's now a perfect fifth, but it's nowhere near as satisfying. So we can have... Still technically resolving. You're going from G dominant 7 to B major. Again, it's not very satisfying, but it resolves. And so you can use that as a pivot. You can go in the opposite direction. You can go B to E and have a perfect fourth. Which again, not the most satisfying sound. But if you've watched my video on cadences, you'll understand that this is the deceptive cadence. The 5 to the 3. All kind of thing. So yeah, it all has to do with how you're going to resolve your tritone. You can use these as pivot chords. The first one I showed you was a dominant to tonic relationship. You can use that for secondary dominance. You can use these other ones for like deceptive resolution. All kinds of really cool things. But the idea of tritone resolution for modulation is that you do have to find a way to resolve your tritone. The way you resolve it is how you can modulate to different areas, different keys. Awesome. Tamashi, can you tell me? Okay, so, do you know circular breathing to sustain those long notes? If yes, then can you explain it? Yes, I can explain it. No, I cannot do it. I just never learned it. So the idea of circular breathing, for the most part, is you take in a breath and you fill your mouth. All right. So there's arguments over whether trumpet players should puff out their cheeks or not when they circular breathe. There's discussions about how it impacts your embouchure. There are pros and cons on both sides of that argument. But the idea is, for sake of argument, you fill your cheeks up with air. And then the idea is you're using the air in your mouth to play the trumpet. And so while you're focusing on closing off your mouth and just using the air in your cheeks, you take a breath in through your nose. So it's not a constant air comes in and out at the same time. That's not what circular breathing is. The idea is air comes in, it gets stockpiled in your mouth, and then while you're using that stockpile, your reserves, you're taking a deeper breath in. And then you replenish it, and it's kind of like a cycle, back and forth, and that's how you're able to create the idea of circular breathing. Hopefully that helps. Chaos, what would you recommend for getting better at analysis on classical pieces? Tashi, do you meant, so first, Chaos, and analyzing, classical pieces. So, there's all kinds of different analysis you could do. I'd have to know what your goal for the analysis is, but I would say it can't hurt to actually learn the processes for analysis. There are books on classical analysis and how to analyze music. I personally don't really use classical approaches to analyzing. But if there's one skill set you're looking for, otherwise, so I would Google great books on analyzing music. All right, you're going to find some great recommendations. I'm sure there are plenty of YouTubers who can recommend books for analyzing music as well. But if you were to ask me, I'd say the best thing you can learn is Roman numeral analysis. All right, so if you can figure out how the Roman numeral system works for music, and there's two basic approaches. There's like the traditional Roman numeral analysis approach for music, and then there's the Berkeley style, which the Berkeley style works better, in my opinion, for contemporary music, whereas the traditional Roman numeral approach works really well for classical and whatever you kind of want to work with. So look, if you can master the idea of naming chords after a Roman numeral, rather than say, instead of C major, you go, all right, that's the major 1. And then this is the major 4, which is an F major. This is the minor 3. And then the diminished 7. And then the major 1 again. So if you can name the chords after their numbers, that makes it a lot easier to kind of analyze, look at the music, and make notes of what chords are being where and how they're being used. But that's really an entire different video in all of it itself. Tamashi, let's see here. So, sorry, you meant tritone substitution. So I'm assuming you're talking about substitute dominants. So, the idea of, first things first, let's look at intervals. All right, so C to E is a major third. What happens if you invert it? So E is on the bottom and C is on the top. Well, a major third becomes a minor 6th. All right, if we do a major 7th, it becomes a minor 7th. All the intervals have an inversion twin. All right, where it's the same two pitches, just the order they're in. So seconds become 7ths, thirds become 6ths, fourths become 5ths. All right, major becomes minor, minor becomes major, and perfect remains perfect. The issue with the tritone is it doesn't matter how you invert it. A B to F, a tritone B to F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a tritone. You invert it, F to B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the same number of semitones. So a tritone flipped upside down is the same exact tritone. So the idea of tritone substitution or substitute dominance is you take a chord that relies on the tritone, such as the dominant 7th chord, a major triad with a minor third added on top. This is the chord at the root of authentic cadences. If we take this B and F, these are the most important notes for that resolution. I'll write out the target chord as well. Right, so these two notes, again, resolve to these two by moving in. So these two notes are the most important. If we take the entire chord and we move it up or down by a tritone, let's go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This tritone is still here. All right, we still have that resolution. Here we go. Let's see here. We still have those notes resolve. The two notes that change are the 1st and the 5th. So now we have, this looks like a C sharp dominant 7. So this F is technically an E sharp, but enharmonically, different names, same pitches, same tritone. So now instead of a nice strong dominant to tonic, we have what's called the substitute dominant. Because a different chord, same tritone, so it can be used to substitute or replace the original. And it creates a very different sound. Right? So instead of G dominant 7 to 1, we have C sharp 7 dominant 7 to 1. Still very satisfying because the tritone resolves. It's just the bass line moves by step instead of 5th. So I assume that's what you're talking about. Omniscient, omnipresent, offering all these chord progressions. You're using ChatGPT. I see you've got question marks there. I'm not sure what that's for either. Tritone modulations. I'm sure if I were to analyze this, there was a reason for why these are tritone modulations. But I don't feel like it. Don't feel like writing out these chord progressions. But thank you. Let's see. Helios, I've made a gift for you. That's why I asked you a question that have nothing to do with the stream. Is an intro for your channel. Now, the real question is, where can I send it to you? Ah, thank you. I really appreciate it. You can send it to my email, tabletopcomposer@gmail.com. I'm excited. You said you got an intro for the channel. That's cool. Can't wait to see it. That'd be fun. I gotta see if there's a way to add intros to live streams. I'm sure there is a way. I've seen people with intros for their live streams. Maybe I just have to like play it on the computer. But that would be awesome because I don't currently have an intro for my actual videos, and I would love to see that. Thank you, Helios. I appreciate it. KOS, cheers. Welcome. Omniscient, omnipresent. This progression uses a combination of primary and secondary chords of both keys, and it also uses tritone substitution for some chords, which creates a sense of dissonance that leads to the modulation. Alright, so play it, please. Let's see. So C major, or C major, then F major, then G major. That's pretty simple. So here we've got the tritone substitution. Right there. Then B major, then C sharp. Oh yeah, so that's essentially what I was talking about. So what they're doing here is from G to F sharp, we have this movement, the same exact shape. So if we take this entire chord and we move it up, we take all this and we move that C sharp to a G, we see the same exact shape. All right, different chords. But instead of C sharp dominant 7 to C major, we have G dominant 7 to F sharp major. All right, so it's the same kind of idea. So they are using tritone substitution, or the substitute dominance, that same process I was talking about. If we follow the same chord progression, A minor to D minor, that's pretty normal. Then E major, that's pretty simple again. But now, instead of resolving the E major the way we want to, we're going to use it as a secondary diminished, or a substitute diminished by going to the D sharp minor. Let's make sure I can play D sharp minor. But again, this is the idea. So the E to D sharp minor, it's the same exact shape. Let's take this G, move it down to E. The only thing we're changing is instead of keeping in a major resolution, we're going to a minor. So yeah, they're using the same exact strategy I just shared about the substitute dominance. They're just using it in the middle of a chord progression to actually modulate, to change keys. So normally you would want this E major dominant 7 to resolve to A minor. That's what we're imagining. We're imagining this chord progression goes A minor, D minor, E major, then A minor. That's what we're expecting, but that's not what's happening. It's going A minor, D minor, E major, and now we're going to that substitute dominant resolution. So it changes, creates a very crunchy, dissonant sound, but it moves us to a different tonal center. Let's see here. KOS, this is a progression using combination. Yep. It would be fun to see an intro, by the way. Maybe in the same vein as 8-bit music theory and SMB. I think so too. That's something that I talked about how my parents were kind of opposed to the whole musician thing at first, but now they're completely on board. My dad was telling me in a phone call recently, he's like, you really need an intro to your videos. I think that'd be really cool. It's like, they'd give you some polish, give you a little bit of professionalism. I was like, that sounds like a great idea. I just gotta find the time to work on it. So if someone actually made me one, I am excited to see it, Helios. Thank you. Let's see. The problem is the video file is heavy. The MP4 preview is 200 megabytes or millibytes. Or I'm bad at that kind of conversion. Megabytes, and the finished one is about 2 gigs because it's rendered in AVI because I had rendered without background. Wow. All right. So if that's the case, do you have a YouTube channel? You can always upload it as a video. It doesn't have to be a public video. You can always do unlisted. I have a lot of unlisted videos on the channel, mostly for like early days of Patreon and such. where no one can find the video unless they have the link. So if you upload it to YouTube, have it unlisted, then copy the link and send it to me, I can watch it. That'd be awesome. Adriano, do you think beginners should always play what they write? To what complexity should be played? Just roots plus melody, chords, voicings only? Good question. So I would say, depends on your goals. If you want to be able to perform your own pieces, then yes, you should probably play the things that you write. I love writing on just a regular piano whenever I can. That's one of my favorite ways to write, is just to sit in front of a piano and just see what comes out. Now, I did not write that. That's actually a chord progression from a piece that, not a piece, a song that I listened to recently. But I love just and that's just what came out reflexively. So that's your goal, and go for it, yes. The downside is if you are not a strong piano player, like myself, for instance. I'm not a strong piano player. I don't want to limit my compositions to only things I can perform. So there are a lot of pieces I've written for piano that I just can't play. And it's frustrating. And I hate that I can't play them. But I'm glad I wrote them. And I wouldn't have limited, and I don't want to limit myself. So long answer made short. If you can play what you'd like to write, go for it. But don't limit yourself to your don't limit your skill set as a composer to the same level as your skill set as a performer, if that's going to be an issue. To what complexity should it be played? I would say if you can sketch it, all right? If you can have a sketch like I do here, if you can at least perform your melody and chords, that's going to be more than enough. So if you can do a chord progression and a simple melody, that's fantastic. This, if you've been seeing the other videos, was obviously not the final product. I have a whole massive arrangement for this theme. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I'm feeling a little turned around at the moment. Tamashi, in Andreas' theory, the 2-5-1 D minor G C, but they use tritone substitution and do D minor C sharp to C, sort of chromatic movement. Can you explain it? Yes. That's exactly what we're talking about. So what Tamashi's talking about is the jazz cadence. That's this 2 chord, followed by the 5 chord, followed by the 1. So the reason why this works is, let's see, so we've got the 1 chord, and we've got the 5 chord. I'll make these 7s so that we can have the full feel. All right, so we've got a nice jazzy feel. We've got the traditional cadence that I was just talking about. And the 5 chord is built off the 5th of the C, but the 2 chord is built off the 2nd scale degree. So if we go, in fact, let's just get rid of the 7ths and just make them chords like that. If we take the 2 chord and we raise it, we got D. Why this works is the D is built on the 5th of G. So we've got this movement of 5ths in the root. D, a 5th down is G, 5th down is C. So when they're using tritone substitution, they're taking this 5-7 chord. Remember I talked about how a substitute dominant is a dominant chord that's moved down. Okay, so this dominant chord has a tritone in it. If we bring this down, we find the substitute, take the entire chord, move it down a tritone, we find the substitute dominant, which is that sound we were talking about. So originally, everything moved by 5ths. Now, if we move this here, it's not moving by 5ths anymore. It's moving by step. We go D major, or D minor. We go with C diminished, or no, C dominant, C sharp dominant 7, and then the 1 chord. So if we go here, and these are all, this is a very slow tempo. I keep forgetting that, so let's bring this in. We hear stepwise movement in the bass, and we can highlight that by dropping it an octave, doubling. That's how you end that. It's a very stereotypical sound. And then if we compare that to the original, take this middle chord, raise it up a tritone again so that it's the original chord, we hear a very different sound. It's a bit stronger, it has a little bit larger leaps in the bass line, but it's not nearly as smooth as using the substitute dominant. Now, if you're a little confused, I do have a quick theory video. It's like 2-3 minutes tops on my channel under the quick theory playlist about substitute dominants. If you look that up, it'll explain the whole process again. But that's what that's talking about, Tamashi. All right, so Marion, welcome. Tamashi, what is a turnaround? Wow, Tamashi, you got a lot of good questions. All right, so a turnaround is essentially this idea that you have a chord progression. It's going to repeat. It's very common in songwriting. So let's say that you end your chord progression with a very strong cadence. All right? Usually it's going to be something about 2 measures long. 2 or 4. All right? So your cadence ends like this. That sounds very final. All right? So then to loop back to the beginning with another verse, you've kind of killed your momentum. So the idea of a turnaround is that you are going to shorten this. You're going to shorten your chords. What you are going to do is you are going to give your cadence a deceptive answer, which is any tonic chord that's not the one. So instead of going, you're going, which doesn't completely kill the momentum. And then you are going to, let's see here. Then you're going to build another. You're going to basically continue the chord progression. We're going to go, let's just say F major, shall we? We'll say F major because it shares some notes in common. And then you're going to delete the one chord. You're going to repeat another dominant chord. And then this is either, you could probably do this one, or you could omit the G and just have it be the diminished seventh. So now instead of ending your chord, your measure like this, killing your momentum, it sounds like it's done, and now you're supposed to repeat it. It's going to sound clunky. Instead of that, you kind of take your first chord, you then you're going to resolve it deceptively, then you're going to continue it, then you're going to build a lot of momentum, and then you start your chord progression again. All right, so let's say that, like, let's say we've got a chord progression. I hope that helps. Let me give a little bit longer explanation. Let's say we've got a chord progression, all right? We go C major, D minor, A minor, and then it's going to go, you know what, let's just actually, we'll just keep it a short one. All right, so let's say that you've got this chord progression, all right? All right, and that's how your chord progression ends. All right, if you're to pick it right back up at the beginning again, it's jolty, all right? Every time you repeat that, it doesn't sound smooth. So instead, what you're going to do is you're going to take this cadence, you're going to do what we did. You're going to shorten your dominant chord. You're going to resolve it with a tonic functioning chord other than 1. Then you are going to delete your tonic. You're going to fill in just some other random chord that works. I'm going to do the F major again because it just kind of fits. Then you are going to add another dominant functioning chord to end the whole thing with a half cadence. And so now, instead of having having to repeat that, you now have and now it repeats. And so there's a lot more momentum. So that's kind of the idea of a turnaround. I could probably do a much more in-depth video explaining it a bit more clearly. That's the first time I've ever had to explain a turnaround before. But the idea is that you're basically replacing your cadence with a faster movement in the chords. You're using more frequent chords, and you end it on a half cadence so that you can repeat the same exact idea, but with a little bit more momentum, if that makes sense. So hopefully that answers. Omniscient, nice, thank you. Intro, Helos, and vice versa, etc., etc. Let's see. Just got to clear some doubts for me in your stream highlights. Thank you. Omniscient gives another chord progression. 6 key changes, 4 of which are tritones. Let's give this a listen. So G major, A minor, E major, A major. That's one of the tritone modulations. D major. I believe that's another one. That might be another one. I'm bad at like noticing things right away, so I'm just going based how they sound. All right, so that is an excellent example of a chord progression that just doesn't seem to work. All right, so that's actually a great example of the idea of a pattern in your chord progression. This chord progression does not seem to work really well because there's no pattern. There's no tonal center keeping them around. There's no alternating of strong chord versus weak chord, or tonic chord, subdominant chord, then dominant chord, repeating that pattern, or even just movement by the same interval. We can take a chord progression. We can say C major. I can build a chord progression by this with any kind of pattern I want to do. In fact, actually, let's just start with G major, the same first chord as that chord progression. If they want to go to A minor, that's fine. If you want to keep doing a chord progression based off seconds, you can do that. There's all kinds of cool things that you can do. If you want to do, I kind of went out of key there for a moment, but you can just repeat. And that chord progression works because it has a pattern. Everything moves by seconds. If you want to work with a strong weak, that works as well. They all work because there's an alternating of a strong chord followed by a weak chord. But this chord progression, on first listen, doesn't have a pattern. That's why it doesn't seem to work. It goes G major, A minor, and it changes keys. Changes keys again. So it's kind of got that nice cadence. The AI knew enough to give it a strong D major to G major cadence at the end. But because there's no underlying pattern, there's no underlying logic to why these chords are put together, other than, I imagine, the template that you just told the AI, hey, write a chord progression with 6 tritone key changes. It just sounds rambling. It doesn't sound fluid. It doesn't sound musical. Because the quality of making a sound musical, by like the physical description, is a repeating pattern. What makes a plate shattering, or a whole bunch of plates shattering, sound like noise, and a violin bow being string being bowed sound like music, is because if you look at the frequencies of the violin string, there's a repeating pattern in the sound waves. To a bunch of plates crashing at a restaurant, there's no pattern. It's all chaos. That's why it sounds like noise versus music. That's a fun little definition for those of you who did not know that. A musical sound requires a repeating pattern at some level. Let's see here. And they are all the same progression. I can actually just ask it to create patterns when I think about it. Yep, you could do that. Let me try again. I just bought Creative Orchestration and haven't managed to read a single page because I am overwhelmed. Can you suggest some ways to get over it and get time to read it? All right, so Creative Orchestration. Which one is that? I know that's one of the books I recommend. I'm trying to think. Which one is it? I'm looking behind me. Not textures, touch harmonies. Creative orchestration. The guide to MIDI orchestration, study of orchestration. Which one is that? I know that sounds familiar. I know it's one I recommended. So I don't know which one it is, so I'm just going to kind of explain to you. The best way to get over it for me is timers. All right, literally. And this is kind of like an ADHD answer. But timers are life. Set the timer on your phone or your computer or even just a physical timer you have. Set it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever amount of time you can commit yourself to. And just start yes, that's the George Frederick Mackay. That's why I couldn't see it. Yeah, so George Frederick Mackay, that's fantastic book. Wow, you got a copy of that. I had to get mine out from a library. I couldn't find any copies. That's why it's not on my bookshelf. But yes, talking about ADHD, I jumped down a different topic. But timers. All right, set a timer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, whatever you can spare, whatever you're willing to do. Sit down and read. All right, and especially with Creative Orchestration by George Frederick Mackay, that book is set up like a textbook. It's a very short textbook, but it's meant to be a guide to teachers for teaching a class. So, 1 chapter a week. All right, if you are just trying to learn from it, do 1 chapter a week. Read the chapter. Think it over. Then write down whatever thoughts that you still have that you think you got the first time through. Then read through it a second time. All right, this time actually taking notes. Spend some time with it. Use flashcards. Take some time to commit it. And then, if you're willing, reread the chapter one more time. When the next week starts, go on to chapter number 2. The trick to this really is to take your time. All right, focus on mastery, not performance. You're not turning in homework here. All right, you're not being timed with how quickly you can memorize the information. But you do want to make sure you master it. So take the time to actually understand the material. In school, when I was studying music, I never finished my degree, unfortunately. But when I was studying music, my grades started out really good. Then the longer I stayed there, my grades got worse and worse. And I remember one of my professors asking me about it. I was explaining, well, this wasn't my first time going through school. And there were lots of regrets I had about my first degree and things that I didn't quite keep, things I didn't quite remember. And so I realized it was about mastery, not performance. I didn't get any scholarships. That's why I couldn't finish. So I wasn't under any pressure to keep my grades at a certain level. So if a professor said, I need this homework due Monday night, but in order to do that homework on Monday night, I had to keep the textbook open, flip through, and look for the answers, I just wouldn't turn it in Monday. I turned it in Friday. Several days, almost a week late. Get very little credit on it, but I had taken the time to master the information so that I could just do the homework without the textbook. There's a question, I can answer it. They want an example of something, I can write it without referencing anything. I had the information committed to my mind. And that's why I love doing these Q&As. You guys can see that. I get that. That's probably one of the most common questions. People ask, how long does it take to learn this? How did you learn this? Or whatever it is. And the fact is, I just took my time. I committed it to memory, and my goal was, how well can I ingrain this so that I don't have to reference a book unless I have to? So again, that was a deep rabbit hole. Long story short, use a timer, read when you can, go 1 chapter at a time, do not rush it, and take your time to actually master the material. Don't worry about trying to have references or notes or keeping the book on your text. Make sure that it's just committed. Keep in mind the ideas that are important. For me, George Frederick Mackay's book, the biggest takeaways I had from that, other than the different textures, which are fantastic, but the biggest takeaway from his, for me, was the importance of clarity of design. The idea of how clear are your arrangements. And for those the two biggest concepts behind the clarity of design for me was pitch distribution, the principle of melodic limitation, and the principle of harmonic limitation. So those are the biggest takeaways I had from it, and I could explain each of them right now. I don't know how well it would go over because I don't have any visual aids prepared, but the idea being that those are the things that I committed to memory. It's been a year since I read that book for the first time, or the only time, because I only read it once. It's been a year since I read it, and yet I still have those principles committed to my memory because I used them and because I took the time to master it and that not just get bogged down in trying to read the book and do the homework assignments. Again, I feel like I kind of went on a tangent. I'll get off my soapbox now. I'll see what else, anyone else. Hopefully that helps. It says omniscient. It says it adds fluidity and a pattern, but it's still the same. All right, so maybe. It might just be an issue. But yeah, so that goes back to the AI thing. Tamashi, thank you. I just borrowed it from a friend. Awesome. See, that's the great thing about having musical friends, is being able to borrow resources. One of my best friends, musical genius, way more intuitive with music than I am. But kind of like dropped out of music because a lot of pressure from his parents of like, oh, you've got a gift, you need to do this. And just like the elitism involved with like the music courses he was taking. So he abandoned music for a long time, but he's getting back into it. And I'm super excited about that. And so he's been, anytime he asks for books or something, I've always got them on my shelf. I'm always happy to make so I'm just excited about that. All that to say, it's great to have musically inclined friends. Let's see here. All right, so that gets me caught up on the questions. Hopefully that answered. Tritone substitution is a really fun topic. I'm glad we went over that. Let's see here. Yes. Omniscient. Yes, it says that the message from omniscient to omnipresent was retracted, so I imagine he was asking, or they were asking about, I don't know who you are, they were asking for the title of the book, but, let's go back to the beginning show. Oh, wow, it's already like 4:22. I'm liking the movement in the bass line. I'm going to add a little bit more, I'm thinking. All right, I'm going to so ChatGPT doesn't have any information on the book, strangely. Actually, that's not too strange. Creative Orchestration by George Frederick Mackay is a discontinued book, and it was never popular in its day. It is, however, a fantastic book. It was written originally in the 18th century, I believe. Yeah, 18th century. It was written. No, 20th century, because 18th would have been the 1700s. 20th century, which is the 1900s. It was written in the 1900s, and it was originally meant to be like the new approach to teaching orchestration. It went against the typical ways of teaching of its time, or even for the time for now, for that matter. But as is the case for many things like that, it just never caught on. It was trying to show a new way to teach orchestration. It didn't catch on, and so after George Frederick Mackay, who was a very accomplished American composer, a concert composer, so not film or anything, concert, one of the, often referred to as an art composer. I don't like that term. I prefer the term concert because it kind of, never mind, that's a whole other argument to be had. But it didn't catch on, so there are not very many copies. The book has seen a resurgence in popularity recently, and I attribute that to Ryan Leach. Ryan Leach has a playlist where he talks about the different textures of orchestration, as first lined out in George Frederick Mackay's book. So, excuse me, I'm sorry about that, but so he talks about so Ryan Leach got that. It's not one of his most popular playlists, but it's got enough attention that other people have started to check out the book. And so I've mentioned it a couple times on my channel because I think it's an amazing book. But yeah, so that's where that's so it's not surprising that the AI doesn't know about it yet because it's an obscure book. Let's see what we can do with this bass line. I want to get a little bit more movement in just so I can say I did something, and I'm starting to feel a little bit more optimistic. I feel like I'm past the I want to give up stage now, finally. So I'll get a little bit of work, and then I feel like I want a little bit of movement here. Tamashi with a PDF. Yeah, share that if you can. I don't think it's in print anymore, so I don't know if that's illegal or not. I don't think it is. Well, maybe copyright. It depends on when it was written. But yeah, I won't tell anybody, even though I just did. Sorry about that. But it is a great read. I highly recommend if you're able to get a copy. I'm just kind of doing things instinctively. I'm sticking to chordal tones because the bass line is so low, all of the partials can cause a lot of dissonance if you're not careful. I think that's good enough. It's not the final product, nowhere near the final product, but it's enough for me to say that I was productive today. All right, that's the key. At least productive during the stream. I'll come back here and do more work later. But speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, everybody. I'm gonna listen to this one more time. If you have any questions, any comments, anything you'd like me to address before ending the stream, we have been going for about 2 hours now. Let me know right now, and I will, yeah, I'll address them before I hang Now I feel like there's too much movement in the bass line. That's alright, I'll fix it. Yeah. Let's see here. So I got some questions. Let's see here. So Omniscient and Tamashi exchanging content information. That's awesome. Omniscient, I'd like to see that story. Send it to my email, tabletopcomposer@gmail.com. That sounds like fun. And Tamashi, can you tell me something about action scenes? I heard that like if you are anticipating it, you are doing it wrong. No. So I imagine you're going off the Hans Zimmer interview where he talked about how he didn't want to give it away. So he records it differently or he writes it differently. That's brilliant. That's the way Hans Zimmer did it. For that one cue, that's not saying anticipating it is wrong. He never said that anticipating it was wrong. He said that when musicians are recording a piece, they're constantly looking ahead. That's just part of sight reading, is looking several measures ahead of where you are. So performing bar 23, but your eyes are already on bar 29 or whatever. That's a large leap. But you're always like 2 or 3 measures ahead of what you're performing so that you can search for any anomalies so you can make sure you perform effectively. So what he was talking about is when he records these action cues, a lot of the musicians look forward and they see, oh, there's this big action moment. There's this huge climactic hit that we're going to play. And so as they're getting ready for that, it kind of betrays a little bit of the sound. It's a very subtle effect, but Hans Zimmer, being a perfectionist and musical genius, it wasn't what he wanted. So he will often split his cues separately so that there aren't any signs of a hit coming, so that the musicians don't anticipate it. It's a very subtle thing. I wouldn't get too wrapped up about that. All right? Chances are you're not working with massive orchestras yet. And even if you were, you probably wouldn't notice the effect of the musician seeing a few moments ahead of time it was having on the sound. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. Either way, I wouldn't get your head wrapped up too much about the right way to do it or the wrong way to do it. Let's see here. Action scenes are a common element in film, television, and literature. They were used to create a sense of excitement, tension, and danger, often used to advance the plot and credits. I was going to say, is that another Chat GPT description? Awesome. All right, so you're getting the story in there. I'm going to read this. I'm looking forward to it. I do have to use the restroom, though, so I'm probably going to get off there in a minute. Awesome. So, this is awesome. Keep uploading it, Omniscient. I'm going to read this in a bit. But for now, I am going to call this, I'm going to call it a day. All right, so Omniscient, if you want to put that in the comments, or if you want to email it to me, I'd be really excited to see it. And then you guys can just kind of exchange emails. But for now, my friends, this is a lot of fun. All right, I will see you all in the next video. So until next time, keep studying, keep working hard, keep writing new music, my friends. I will see you all in the next stream. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.